Are you ready for some spoilers? Lots and lots and lots and lots of spoilers. I hope you will join me. It's nice to meet you. My name is Christina, K-O-S-T-I-N-A. This is the D. Louise book series. This is where we read books and talk books. No special effects going on here. What you see is what you get. The old Roots web editing program. Yes, ma'am. Can I help you? Come here. Come here. You just want to say hi. Hi. How's everybody? Hope everybody's doing okay. I like to read books with my mommy. I like reading books with my mommy. So today, my emotional upheaval over the passing away of Skye O'Malley has passed. I'm getting past it. And we are up to book 8 in the Skye O'Malley series, Bedazzled. We are continuing with Skye's grandchildren. The story is continuing with her grandchildren. And what was I going to say? If you want to, that we also catch up with Glenn Kirk's side of the family. And if you want to know about Katrina Stewart Hepburn, you have to read the Caden. And she had a similar experience to Skye O'Malley, but she did it with Scotland and Ireland and stuff like that. So you'd have to really check that out. She lived a really good life too, almost just not quite as harrowing as Skye's, because we didn't really delve in it as long as we did to Skye's. Skye's story went 7 books. If you haven't checked out my previous videos for Skye O'Malley, please do so. There are 7 books in the 12 books in the series, and we went from Skye O'Malley to All Sweet Tomorrow and Love for All Time and Love Lost Found and Wild Jasmine. We went to India and Darling Jasmine. And now we are up to Bedazzled, India's story. And this, I didn't get as involved. I took tons and tons and tons of notes for this book, but I didn't get as emotionally involved in it as I've been with the previous ones. I think because after 7 books, you really get to know Skye O'Malley and you root for her, and you don't want to see her story end. You want to see her story continue. But it did come to an end. We watched her entire life unfold over the 7 books. And like I said, now we are going to handle the other side, her grandchildren's side of the family, in the Scottish side, in the Glenkirk side. And we're going to catch up with, like I said, Katrina, or Kat, they call her, Stewart Hepburn. And she is the Earl of Glenkirk's mother. And the Earl of Glencook is who Jasmine married in her books, in her story. So we spend there is a prologue, and we will get to that later, because it's there was somebody framed in the prologue, this elderly lady who is the second wife to Lord Jeffreys decides that she wants her son, who was the second son, to inherit. So she frames the first one for murder. So, and then the first one skips town, and we don't see that for a while. So then in the first chapter, we're catching up with the Glenkirks and all their children and what's going on with them and the whole family. And, we're learning what happened to the characters, and they talk about India and how she's approaching 17 and she needs to be looking for a husband. I think Skye's first marriage was when she was 15. Although, nowadays you're still in high school and you really should wait till at least 25 now. But in the olden days, in the early days when people had shorter lifespans, they wanted to get started with getting offspring soon. So James and Jasmine decided they want their daughter to wed for love, and it goes out the window after stuff starts to happen. But initially, their story is they want to their daughter to marry for love. That's the initial story. It changes. So then I took a ton of notes and made a lot of notes to read, and it's really not as irrelevant in the previous stories, in the Skye O'Malley stories. Dealing with Queen Elizabeth Tudor was pertinent to the storyline. The Queen was a driving point in the plot line. And remembering that and knowing that, I was making a gazillion notes, and they have nothing to do with the plot line. So I tossed them out the window. I was like, I wasted all this paper and all this time and concentration and making all these notes, and I didn't need them. So they decide that they're going to go to court. They have to go for the royals. We just get a little bit, as you know, yes, ma'am. I like to share these stories with you, and I enjoy reading them to you. And I do not believe this one has been an audio yet. It might have been, but I don't think these are audio yet, these last few. The Leslies of Glencoe had come to France to represent their country at the proxy marriage of the new King Charles I to French Princess Henrietta Marie. King James had sickened and died unexpectedly on the 27th of March. The marriage negotiations had already been concluded. Although there was some difficulty about the prince's religion, Charles Stuart had no time to argue with his government. He was suddenly king and without an heir. While he did not feel he could depart his country to personally celebrate the marriage with his father newly deceased, he felt strongly that the marriage must go forward immediately and his queen must be brought to England. The marriage was originally to have been celebrated in June, was now moved forward to the 1st of May. So Charles's enemies in the Parliament would not have time to marshal their forces and delay or prevent the match. So they go through all this, and they go to court to witness the wedding, and they go through the stuff. There is some stuff at the end of the chapter, catching up with Katrina and her son, and talking about her deceased husband and what they want to do there, and they're making final arrangements, stuff like that. So we'll go through that, and we go through the court, and we talk about court, and then of course the Leslies have their discussion. So then in chapter 2, Willow, Skye O'Malley's first child, comes to help them get into court. That's her only appearance in the whole book, and she's one of the few of the original children that make an appearance. She's so she comes to help them. They raid the small Skye O'Malley storage containers for clothing, because when Skye went to Algiers, she brought back tons and tons, and when Velvet when Velvet came back, she came back with tons and tons of material too for clothing. So they've got tons of material on hand for exotic clothing. So they're gonna go to I'm not even I was gonna read it, but it's not really part of the story. She just Willow just introduces and introduces them to court and then goes home. So she's talking, India is talking with Jasmine, her mother. Let's see. Tomorrow you will wear your less spectacular gowns to court to greet the queen. It would not do to outshine her majesty when she is undoubtedly striving to make a good impression upon her new subjects. She will feel strange and I suspect just a little frightened in her new land. Like you when you came to England? Jasmine nodded. At least the Queen can go home again if she wants to visit France. Once I left India, there was no going back. Do you ever regret leaving? Her eldest child asked. Jasmine shook her head. No. My life there was at an end. My fate was here with your father, and later in Scotland with your stepfather, my darling Jamie. You must never fight your fate, India, even if it's not the fate you believe you would choose. My fate isn't very interesting, Mama, India said. I will have to choose a husband very soon, or risk being an old maid. I will settle down and have children as you and Grandmother Velvet and my great-grandmother Madame Skye did. There is no excitement or surprises in such a fate. It is quite an ordinary, I fear. Neither Madame Skye nor my mother nor I led dull lives in our youth, India, Jasmine reminded her daughter, although I do hope you will not face all the excitement we did. I am not certain you could cope with it being so gently raised. So they talk about her, a little bit of her childhood. So then they go to court. And this is where the Earl, I wrote it down so many times. Damn me if that ain't the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. Adrian Lee Viscount Twyford said to his friend Lord John Somers. Too rich for your blood, Lord Somers replied dryly. You know who she is, Johnny, and why would I not aspire to such a magnificent creature? Because she is the stepdaughter of the Duke of Glencork and the stepsister of the Marquis of Wesley, a virgin and an heiress far beyond your reach. You don't want to marry Twyford, you want to seduce. Seduce that beauty and you'll end up very dead. Whatever they have planned for Lady India Lindley isn't you. I'll be Earl of Oxton one day, Johnny, Viscount Twyford replied. And what a countess she would make. India, 'tis an odd name. The Duchess of Glencork, the girl's mother, is from that land, I am told, although her mother is English or Scots, I am not sure which. I do know they are a wealthy family and somehow distantly related to the king's family. Lady Lindy's half-brother, the Duke of Lundy, is also the king's nephew. Wrong side of the blanket, of course. You know these Scots do it. So he goes over to introduce them to the family. When they reached the area where the Duke of Glencork stood speaking with his stepson, Lord Somers stopped and waited to catch Henry Lindy's eye, saying when he did, I came to pay my respects, my lord, and to introduce you to my friend, Viscount Twyford, who, having seen your sister, Lady India, tells me he will perish if you do not introduce him. Lord Somers grinned in friendly fashion at the Marquis of Wesley, who was 3 years his junior. Introduce me to these gentlemen, Henry, the Duke of Glencork said. He took in the measure of the 2 young men before them. Lord John Somers' father, his estate borders mine. We have sometimes hunted together when I have been at Cadby, Henry Lindy said, and this is his friend, Viscount Twyford. Do you have a name, young man? The Duke of Glencork demanded. Adrian Lee, sir. I am the Earl of Oxton's son and heir. He bowed to Jamie Leslie and the young Marquise. And you wish to meet my daughter, sir, to what purpose? And he wants to meet her. So he gets to meet her, and then the family decides that they're gonna, some part of the family leaves for a little bit, and then the rest of the family decides, we're just going home now. We don't have to stay here for this. We need to go home. In the meantime, Velvet has gotten to know Adrian, and she kissed him. That was all she did, was kiss him. And being 17 years old, she's decided that he's the one for her. She's believed all of his lines, and she's just fallen head over heels from him. She's never had a boyfriend before, so the fact that he's paid all this attention to her, and he's given her all these compliments, and he's fed her all these lines, She's in over her head, totally 100% bought it, sold, whatever, the whole 9 yards. So they try to warn her, and it doesn't work. And I'll skip those little pieces. But and when she decides, when the family decides that they're going back to Queen's Malvern, she doesn't want to go. She wants to stay. She wants to be with Adrian. And they decide, no, we're going. We're all going. And Adrian had tried to pursue his suit with Glenkirk, her father, and was told no. And I just wanted to bring up the rumor. Who was it? If I am, her mother replied, I shall remain so until you have left my home for your husband's home. You will obey me. You will also not give me cause to regret that I have allowed you to remain with the court, when I should have far preferred to go home to Queen's Malvern myself with your sister and brothers. I am quite capable of changing my mind, India. Now tell me about Viscount Twyford. Does he seek to pay his addresses to you? He really is not suitable, you know. Why not? India was curious as to what her mother had heard. His father's family is not a respectable one, Jamie said. They are Gloucestershire people. I'm sure you know about his brother, Deverell. It was quite a scandal, and such things do not die. Deverell Lee murdered a rival, India said. So it was said, and the fact that he fled England did nothing to erase the impression. Many, however, did not believe it. Deverell Lee was an honorable young man, but still, it was his knife found in the victim's chest, and he ran away. A convenience for his stepmother and her son Adrian. No one saw or heard the murderer, Lord Jeffreys. His serving man was away that night, and there was no one else in the house. And of course there was a knife. Deverell Lee can never return to England without facing the hangman's rope, for there is no one to attest to his innocence, if he is indeed innocent. I had heard his father had disowned him. What choice did the poor man have? So you're afraid Adrian will one day be the Earl of Oxton, and sooner than later, if the rumors are to be believed. But why do you hold Adrian to account for his brother's behavior? I said his father's family was respectable. His mother, however, is another thing. She is a foreigner. Her family is not the equal of her husband. She is said to take lovers, men of low station. And she goes on to talk about the mother. And then Adrian decides, India decides that her true love is Adrian. She's bought all his lies. She's totally bought hook, line, and sinker the whole kit and caboodle. So she, when her family decides that they are going to go back to Scotland, she sends him a note. And so he comes and makes nightly visits to her, throwing the old pebble at the window, and they make plans to elope. And even after her brother tries to warn her, she still decides to do this. So the family decides to leave. So she packs her bags because the family is leaving, and everybody thinks she's packing her bag to go with them. And she takes her baggage and sneaks out of the house in the middle of the night. And her and Adrian go on to Thomas Small's ship. She told Adrian that if we were going to go to Italy, we were going to go to Italy on a Skye O'Malley ship, that she would not trust any other ships. And he goes, well, won't they know who you are? And she says, well, I will go in disguise and they will not recognize me. So the whole thing goes off without a hitch. She leaves her house. She gets on the boat with him. They head to Italy. And then she's discovered. They were several days out of Marseilles when the passenger steward sought out Tom Southwood. Captain, may I speak with you a moment? The steward stood in the door of the main cabin. Come in, Knox. What is the problem? Well, Captain, 'tis the lady. The one who is getting off in Naples. Ain't she supposed to be an old lady, sir? Aye. Now what was this all about? Tom Southwood thought. Well, Captain, she ain't old. She's a young lady. Knox looked very uncomfortable. I was going by her cabin this afternoon and I seen her sitting on the bunk brushing her hair. I stopped because I was so surprised that an old lady would have such fine tresses. Then she turned her head slightly. She didn't see me, sir, and if it weren't an old lady's face, it was a beautiful young girl, Captain. Damnation, Tom Southwood swore, irritated. What the hell was going on? And he would certainly have to find out before they put into another port. A young lady, a Signor Di Carlo who spoke accentless English. He had said he was schooled in England. An elopement, it was the only and the logical answer. Signor Di Carlo was running off with someone's daughter, but whose? And what was Tom Southwood to do about it? Come with me, he said to Knox. And they go off and they go into the cabin. And Tom Southwood immediately recognizes India Lindley. I'm sorry, Captain, but you have mistaken me for someone else. India, you are somewhat grown since the last time I saw you, Tom Southwood said grimly, but you have your mother's look about you and that fetching little mole that sports between your nostril and upper lip, and you are wearing the Lindley signet ring your mother gave you. Now, what is all this about, and why are you masquerading as an old lady? Although I believe I know the answer to your question. And she's like, oh, she's in love. Tom is decent. Adrian is decent. He's the one for her. The parents don't like him. And she spills her beans. And he's like, he's going to lock her in her cabin. He's going to lock Adrian in his cabin. And he's going to take them back to London. And then they get attacked by pirates. And they end up in Elsinute. And they go there, and the guys come aboard the ship, and Tom Southwood, the information has been passed to all of the family members. The instructions come down from Skye, even though she's deceased. The instructions are still passed down through all of the shipping crew that when you go, if you ever get in this situation, they're going to ask you to convert your religion. Say yes. That way you will not be killed, and then you will have a chance of escaping later. But you will survive if you tell them you will convert. So Southwood makes arrangement. He saves quite a few of his men. So some of them end up staying with him, and some of them end up going to the galleys. But he makes a really good deal, and India does her part, and she gets taken as the Day's one of in his harem. This guy gives him the guy that captured the ship gives him to the Day, and Adrian makes a total idiot of himself, and you just want to scream at him and slap him and say that he deserved what he gets, because she's still she's trying to protect Adrian, and while she's thinking of Adrian is thinking of Adrian and nobody else. He's not thinking of India anymore. He knows what happens to these girls, so she'll be deflowered, she won't be a virgin anymore, and he wants no part of her. Oh, and I meant to, and I skipped it, and I won't go back now, but I wanted to point out that when he's talking with Adrian before they eloped, when Adrian is talking with his mother, he has plans on marrying India and locking her up in his castle or fortress or whatever you want to call it. And she's thinking, oh, it's so romantic. He's going to hide me from my family and protect me. No, he's thinking prisoner. And he's thinking of beating her. He wants all of her money. And it's totally traditional for all of the O'Malley's that the ladies keep their stuff. The guy can get a dowry, but the ladies get to keep all of their properties in their name, and they get to decide what happens to it. But he doesn't know that, and it's not brought up. But so he talks to his mother about how he would beat her and stuff like that. So, anyways, let's get back on track here. So we get to Elsinute, and they board the ship, like I said, and you are willing to convert to Islam and sail for me? I, my lord. You are quick with your answers, Captain, and I am suspicious of such a cooperative attitude. Is it possible you are considering escape? That you believe you will be given your freedom if you convert and then may be free? I am not such a fool as you may think. You may speak. My lord Day, you would know me for a liar if I said I had no thought of escape. Surely every captain dreams of escape. However, once many, many years ago, my grandmother was a captive of Islam. She eventually returned home and told her children and grandchildren that to suffer for dogma is foolish and wasteful of the talents we have been given. That Christians, Jews, and the Muslims all worship the same God, no matter the name they call by him. I willingly accept Islam, and I offer you my services as both a ship's captain and a navigator. It would be a shame if my talents were wasted at an oar, or in the mines or the fields. I have no wife to return home to, and I am content for the time being to remain here in Elsinute, serving the Sultan, as many before me have done. If you will have me, of course, my lord Day, I realize you have the power of life and death over me, but if you will have me, I am your servant. And the Dey likes him and is pleased with what he says. And then Adrian is brought in, and the Agnes signaled and chewed just emissaries brought Viscount Twyford forward. Adrian Lee, however, refused to kneel or even bow before the Dey. Instead, he immediately began harangue. I am the heir of the Earl of Oxford, sir. I can be ransomed for a handsome sum. Do so immediately, that I may acquit of this savage place. On your knees, dog, Adju said. What, bow to some infidel? The Viscount returned. Get on your knees, you damn fool, Town Southwood growled. They will separate your head from your shoulders without a thought. Adju didn't wait another moment. He grabbed Adrian Lee by his iron collar and kicked his legs from beneath him, slamming him to the floor where his aristocratic nose, making hard contact with the marble, began to bleed profusely. The Dey watched impassively. Then he said, Send him to the galleys. I cannot be bothered with the arrogance of this young milord. Perhaps after he has rowed his way across the sea for a few minutes, he'll be more amenable. Put him on the gazelle. Take him away. And they take him away. He will not be ransomed. No one will ever know where he is. And so then India is given to the Dey, and he takes his time with her, and they get to know each other, and they fall in love, and they eventually marry. And after all of this, they get her they go through the Dey's servant goes into the marketplace and finds a Scottish lady to be India's tiring woman, because she speaks English or Scottish English. He feels she'd be good, and the lady is very faithful to India. So let's see. I'm not sure what this next part is. Okay, so they get married, and she misses her family and stuff like that. And uh, there's also a coup going on. Um, there's political upheaval going on in the area. The Janissaries are planning on trying to overthrow a couple of the rulers, and they're trying to get the Dey to take their side, otherwise he will be killed. And there's a lot of upheaval going on. There's a lot of political movement in the background. They're kept informed. But while this is going on, I missed a little part. We get the background. I'm just going to back up just a little bit because it's important to the storyline. We get the Dey, the guy that Jasmine has, not just India, has been given to, and the guy that has nursed her for like almost a year now. Gotten to know her very slowly seduced her, fell in love with her, convinced her to be his wife, his first wife. He has a full harem and he has not taken a wife yet. And India will be his first wife. And hopefully she will conceive him a child. And I wanted to I can't find this part. It turns out that the Lord Canaan, the guy, oh, that's the telling of the thing. That's not what I was looking for. It turns out that Canaan Rias is not from that country. It turns out that the Janissary departed the Dey's audience chamber, and Canaan Rias dismissed his servant, sitting quietly upon his dais. Viscount Twyford, how odd it had been to hear the title that had come out of his half-brother's mouth. Adrian had, under his mother's tutelage, become an arrogant swine, so filled with himself that he had not even recognized Devereux Lee. But then it had been 10 years since they had last seen each other. 10 years could be a lifetime, the Dey considered. In that time, his half-brother had grown from a snot-nosed brat into a haughty and insolent cad. One of the guards who escorted Captain Southwood and Adrian from his audience chamber had been a sailor on the ship he had taken from England. That vessel, like the Royal Charles, had been captured by corsairs sailing out of El Sinut. The guard, like Devereux Lee, had accepted Islam and gained a decent life. Although he rarely heard his native tongue, he had dutifully reported the conversation he'd overheard between the English captain and Adrian, even as the Dey was preparing to punish India for her attack on his person. Captain Southwood's gallant attempt to protect his cousin from scandal undoubtedly came about because the foolish, inexperienced India was attempting to elope with Adrian. He could see his stepmother's greedy hand in it, the Dey thought. He doubted the girl's family would have approved any match between his half-brother and India, not with his stepmother's reputation and the scandal of Lord Geoffrey's murder, for which he had been held responsible. And there's a little bit more background on him. So then we discover that India is with child, and she's so in love, and she's so happy, and she's so content where she is in El Sinut. And Maggie is turning out to be a great companion, and she's really happy where she is. And then Tom Southwood decides that this is the time. The time is right. The atmosphere, the political atmosphere is turning upward, and there's going to be a bad storm, and it'll provide excellent cover for them to depart. So Thomas Southwood had heard that the Dey had made India his wife. He was relieved that she'd gotten some common sense and was protected. He had no doubt that given the chance she would want to return to England, and he intended that. When he went, she would go too. He had promised it to her those many months ago. How could he justify leaving her behind to the family? Enough of their female relations had been in the same situation as India, and they had returned home. There was no great rah over it. India's fat dowry would erase any number of sins in the eyes of a titled husband, particularly one in the Highlands who would have never heard of El-Sunut. He had no doubt both India's grandmother and her mother knew of ways of making what had broken quite whole again. India's husband would have no doubt as to his bride's virginity. So he informs his crew of the incident. They've all been planning. They all know their exact roles. They know everything they're supposed to do. And then he says, and Adrian Lee, he was another problem. There was simply no way they could rescue him, as he was chained to his oar with several other men. To attempt to free Viscount Twyford would endanger their plan, for his shipmates would want to come too, and then so would all the other galley slaves on Audra's ship. Many of them were unsavory types and uncontrollable. They would want to rape and pillage El-Sunut before departing. Such rash behavior would destroy any chances they had of making a clean escape. It just couldn't be done, and he hoped India would not be too distressed over it. So he had everything in place, and they're going to make an escape. So Tom successfully rescues India against her will. She does not want to go. She is happy with the day, and Maggie will go wherever she goes, so Maggie goes too. And they take India to Italy, to Naples, to see Cat. Let me see if I can get to it. Yes, so they go to see Katrina. They take her to Katrina's house first. They anchored in the Bay of Naples. They had exchanged the banner that flew atop their mast earlier that morning for two flags, one indicating they were an English ship and the other below it to announce they belonged to the O'Malley Trading Company. Captain Thomas Southwood left his vessel and rowed ashore. There he immediately registered the ship with the harbor master, explaining they had escaped captivity in Barbary States by stealing back the Royal Charles. He requested that a ship's painter be sent out to the vessel to repaint the correct name on the side and stern. And then he goes to Kat's house. I am Captain Thomas Southwood of the O'Malley small trading ship, the Royal Charles. I would like to see Lady Stuart Hepburn. And your business, Captain? The doorkeeper demanded. My business is private, fellow, and not to be discussed with servants, Thomas Southwood replied. Dinna get your breeches in a twist, the Scot said. But no one gets in the house without my knowing their business. I promised my lord on his deathbed that I would watch over her ladyship, and nay a promise made lightly. I am a son of the Earl of Lymouth, uncle to the Duchess of Glenkirk, Thomas Southwood answered. 'Tis family business. Ah, come in then. I'll take you to her ladyship. Katrina Stuart Hepburn had been sitting at embroidery by the frame by the open doors. She rose, and he saw she had the same elegance that his late grandmother had possessed. My lady, Southwood, are you related to the Earl of Lymouth, sir? Robert Southwood is my father. How kind of you to visit, she said. I do not have visitors from the north. Do you bring messages from my family? I've brought your granddaughter, Lady India Lindy, he said. India! Oh, thank God! Jamie and Jasmine have been so worried. Where did you find her? Is she all right? And he tells her of what happened. India spends a few days with her, and then they return her to Scotland, to her parents, and her parents are not pleased that she is with child. Her father has decided that once she has said child, he's going to remove said child and have her married. And India goes ballistic because this is not happen. Velvet didn't have to, Velvet left her child in India, but that because if they had brought the child back, it would have been considered a bastard if they didn't want that label on the child. But eventually, Velvet did come back to the States. So, or to England, should I say, and to Skye. And Skye fixed the whole thing. Skye fixed everything. I will leave you with that. I will leave you to let you know she does get word, and the reason her Katrina was going to send her back to India, back to the day, because India was with child and she was totally, absolutely in love. But they received word that the political overthrow happened and that the day was deceased. So that's when she can agreed to go back to Scotland to her folks. And while her folks are very happy to see her, her father has decided he's going to be the be all end all dictator. And he's decided that once she has the child, he's going to marry her to somebody. He doesn't care who, he's going to marry her, whether she wants to be married or not. It's going to be an arranged marriage. And all this talk about marrying for love and all that stuff is out the window. And it's just, she has fights with both her parents. And life goes to hell in a handbasket for India. Then they send India off to the country to have the child. And once the child is born, her parents come and take the child. And then they make an arranged marriage to her, for her. And she's still ballistic. She won't talk to her parents. She argues with her parents constantly. And so to find out what happens, who the arranged marriage is with, if she gets the child back, because they do take the child away from her, and the sex of the child and the whole 9 yards. I will leave that to you. I won't spoil all that. But I hope you will enjoy this whole series. I hope you will check it out. I am looking forward to Besieged, and this is Fortune's story. Fortune is India's sister. So we will check that out. Please hit the like and subscribe. Also, please check out Star Trek Friday. We recap the episodes every single Friday. Also, if you like this author, then you might like this author every Friday afternoon. And don't forget Flashback Mondays, where we talk about 20 or 30 different books. Contemporary romance, historical, mystery, sci-fi, inspirational, contemporary, mainstream fiction, paranormal, and Harlequin and erotica. We talk about it all on Mondays. So please check that out. Please hit the like and subscribe. And I hope you enjoyed this book as much as I did. Have a good one.